What was that? Hey, that one was an oxbow, huh?
No. Okay, you shut that thing off for a bit. Okay, here we are a few days later. Table still full of a bunch of junk from doing this project. I haven't had time to clean it up yet. I wanted to give you kind of a rundown about why we did this project. I'm going to give you the short version, and then if you want to listen, I'll give you the long version after that. The short version, I wanted to save my back. I wanted some way to pick up all these limbs we cut every year, and I wanted to be able to add some other accessories to the tractor down the road. So I wanted a third function hydraulic out on the front end loader. I bought the grapple at an auction about, I don't know, last summer, fall. It's been sitting there ever since. I ordered the Summit Hydraulics kit, third function kit, just the generic version to put on my Branson tractor. Last fall, I ordered a bunch of parts and pieces from Surplus Center last fall. I just now got around to it. I trimmed the trees like a month ago, and I'm like, I left them there on purpose so it would kind of force me to do the grapple thing because I didn't want to go pick them up. So I finally had a free day. I'm like, I'm going to do this. So in my mind, it says this is a 4 or 5 hour project. In my heart, I knew this was not going to be a 4 or 5 hour project. And it turned out that was very much true. Several trips back to town, and about $479 worth of parts later, we had it complete. And it works after a couple little snafus in there. And it works great. I picked up all the limbs. And we're happy. That's the short version. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video. If you want to hear more, keep watching. Okay, the long version. That tractor, I should have known better. I looked at the fittings. I'm like, oh, those look like JIC fittings. So all the parts I had ordered from Surplus Center were JIC fittings. It matched with the Summit hydraulic stuff. So that made sense. Good to go. The Summit hydraulic part of this equation, I had no problems with it. It was all just like it was supposed to be. No issues with it whatsoever. Thanks, guys. Good product. Where I wound up with the problem was connecting to my tractor. It's a Branson tractor or TYM, whatever they're calling themselves now. The valve body on that tractor was made in Turkey. All the fittings that I could tell on that tractor are not JIC, come to find out. They're Japanese, whatever. I'm not a hydraulic expert, never claimed to be, so don't hold me to this. They're Japanese, whatever, and from my understanding, the threads are slightly different. The taper on the connectors are slightly different. I thought I had one there. I think a JIC fittings, like 37 degrees. The Japanese are 30 degrees for what that's worth. If I could have those numbers slightly off, but they're not the same connector. Some of them will screw together, but I found out they also pop apart when you do that. If you get pressure against them, they don't hold together. I had one on back where the backhoe connects. I jury rigged in a hose there to try that thing out. The one on the back was a Japanese connector. The one I connected to it was a JIC. As soon as you put pressure on it, blew the whole thing apart. Did a really good job of oiling my driveway. So that was the first little hydraulic explosion we had. So that took some trips to town to try and find the right connectors, which when you live in a small town, you have to go to multiple parts stores to find the right connectors. Even our hydraulic shop that we have here, he had most of it, but the second trip in, I had to go to parts stores. It just happened that one of them had the right connector. But again, 2 trips in later, and I had to buy those flat face connectors that like skid steers use on their implements, which are expensive anyway. They're really expensive when you buy them locally, but I was in a hurry. So I think the female version, I could have these backwards. I think the female one was $150 and the other one was like $70 or $80. pretty spendy. And then having the hoses made with those funky connectors on them, the whole thing wound up costing quite a bit of money and a lot of wasted time driving back and forth. So what wound up shouldn't have been a 4 or 5 hour project wound up being spread out over 2 days to get it done. So it ate up a lot of time. And the valve body is very poorly labeled. Let's just put it that way. There's like 3 ports real close to each other, and there's just, there's letters next close together, and you can't tell really what port they're labeling. So there's T, C, and I don't remember what the other one was. And every valve body I've ever seen, and again, I'm not a hydraulic expert, most of them with Power Beyond are labeled P or PB for Power Beyond. Not that valve body. What I thought I was tapping into for the Power Beyond, because you kind of loop the Power Beyond through this third function thing back to, on my tractor, the backhoe. The hose come out of the top of come out of the side of the valve body and disappeared under the seat area of the tractor. And it looked like the hose that went back to the backhoe. Turns out that was not that hose. What I connected into was the tank. So I essentially had no way for the oil to get back to the tank on the tractor, because that hose that I thought I was tracing actually goes up and dumps into the top of the transmission. Now, the only way I knew this was I eventually found the service manual for that tractor buried in a forum somewhere. Somebody had posted it. Finally figured out the way those hydraulics worked. So that particular hose that I thought went back to the backhoe did not. So when I hooked it up, I looped it through the third function, and then it went back to the backhoe, but it had nowhere to go from there. It just locked the whole hydraulics up. Fired it up, tractor was running. I lifted the loader a little bit. It just bogs way down, locks the hydraulics up. Obviously, that's a problem. So I disconnected some connectors and got that pressure off. I finally found the manual, figured all that out. What turns out to be the right port on that valve body is labeled C. Now, some of you guys that deal with hydraulics all the time might say, well, duh, that's what C means. It meant nothing to me. And again, it was hard to tell which port was actually labeled C, but I finally figured it out, got it hooked up right. After that, it was no problem. And when I hooked the grapple up for the first time, jaws open up on it, and then it starts closing. I'm like, what in the world's going on? Now, I haven't had time to go through the footage. I don't know if I caught that on camera. I'm hoping I did. If so, I'll insert it here. But the jaws opened up, and then they slowly start closing. I'm like, wow, is that Summit Hydraulics valve leaking back through? What in the world's going on? I'm sitting up in the seat of the tractor, so I really can't tell what's going on. And I finally lean down and look, and the hydraulic oil is just pouring off of this thing. So I get out there and look, and that grapple, it was that auction grapple, Chinese-made thing. Not one fitting on that thing was tight. All of them may have had 1 or 2 threads on the hydraulics, and that was it. So the ones that operated those cylinders, it opened it, but it just leaked out just about as fast as you could put hydraulic fluid into the thing. So tightened all those up, got that working. And then I went out and picked the limbs up, and everything was happy. It works great. It's a fairly heavy grapple. I'm not talking build-wise, it's just heavy. I would estimate it probably weighs 500 pounds or so, I'm guessing. So got it working, saved my back picking up limbs. I broke my back putting the hydraulics on, but saved my back picking limbs up. Okay, so that wraps up the grapple part of it. The other reason I wanted a third function out there is for snowplow, so I can angle the blade. Again, it's going to be one of those auction finds. You see them at auctions all the time. Chinese-made stuff. It's probably going to be a lot more money now, but that's what I'm hoping to find is a snow blade, so I don't have to use the four-wheeler to plow, because honestly, it works okay, but it's a huge pain, and I would just as soon not do it anymore. It's a lot more controlled with a tractor, so that's what I'd like to do. The other reason is I want a post hole auger for the front end loader, kind of like what you'd see on a skid steer, hydraulically operated. Now, my little tractor, I think it'll only do up to 12 gallons per minute. And most skid steers are quite a bit more than that. So the auger is going to be mighty slow, but I guarantee it's going to be better than the 3-point auger on the back. I've learned to absolutely hate those things. I don't want to get into that right now, but I don't like them. And if I can get away from it and go to one of these foreign made augers that, you can pick up at auction for, whatever, under $500 usually, and use that instead, I would be much better off, even though it's probably going to be a little bit slower to do the augering, but I guarantee it's going to save me time rather than taking the backhoe off, putting the 3-point stuff on my tractor and using that auger. Like I said, I've learned to hate that auger setup for the tractor. So I want to get away from it altogether. So this allows me to do that. Okay, that's the longer version. I'm glad that project's done. Man, that thing just ate up a lot of my time. But it's going to save me time in the future. So that's okay. I think that's it for today. I wanted to bring you along on this little adventure. My new plan is going to try and be to put out at least one video. Well, not at least one video a week, if at all possible. You guys might get more videos like this, stuff I'm doing around the place. I hope you don't mind. I know I did that in the past and I've kind of got away from it, but that's what I'm doing. That's what I have time for. So you may get videos like that. You may get an occasional rodeo video thrown in there because we're spending a lot of time doing a lot of rodeo stuff right now. So the kids are at that age. That's what they're involved in. That's kind of their sport, different events. So that's probably, where we spend a majority of our time now when we're not doing stuff around here is we're out doing that stuff. I'm still going out and looking at mines. In fact, we did a couple this spring. I need to get those videos out to you guys. But anyway, that's the new plan. So stick around. I'm hoping one video a week, if at all possible, in between crazy family stuff around here, doing all this different stuff, my crazy job situation. I don't even want to get into that. That's a whole animal by itself, but we'll see where that goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.